We are here as souls in a physical body in a real world adventure using these bodies to evolve into a 5D consciousness. But a lot of people will say, we're stepping into the fifth dimension to help save the planet. The truth is Mother Earth aligned in 5D first. We're just in a biological evolutionary necessity to move in the direction of where the planet already is, and the things over time that don't align with it will dissolve and perish, and the things that do will expand and transform. And we're all at different stages of this. We're all in different lanes of this, but that's essentially what's happening. It's the awakening that we each go through as people, right? That we could call spiritual puberty is happening on a global level.
Greetings and welcome to the Dr. Espen podcast. Today I am joined by Matt Kahn, a renowned spiritual teacher, highly acclaimed empath and bestselling author, known for his transformational insights into the journey of awakening. I've personally had the privilege of listening to Matt Kahn's transmissions, downloads, and call it words and sentences and messages of wisdom for quite some years, and have attuned my life beautifully due to these higher messages. So this is going to be quite a esoteric, or at least spiritual type conversation. So lean in for this one if you're curious. For me in my life, Matt has been an absolute blessing. His teaching focuses on love as the ultimate path to self-realization. I could not agree more. That is just beautiful. Matt loves emphasizing the importance of emotional freedom and the power of self-awareness. His books, including the classic, which is well worth getting, definitely write this down. It's called Whatever Arises, Love That. And his other recorded teachings has inspired millions of people around the world. His message is simple yet profound. Embrace every moment with love and kindness and unveil the divine within. I'm really honored to be here and to be able to have this conversation. Matt, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor to be here with you.
I want to jump straight in because for me in my life, you've been a blessing in many ways, particularly when it pertains to what I needed to hear when I felt like was either stuck or I was going through a difficult time, but also in the moments where I just sat in stillness and wanted to receive, information from higher sources. So I'd love if you can start, Matt, by just telling us a little bit about the work that you do, how you channel, and then we'll get into some questions that I think will be quite pertinent for our audience. So a little bit about yourself would be amazing, please.
Absolutely. From all the years of, learning about what I do, because I've learned about what I do while doing it, watching myself, which is an interesting way to learn. But I'm known as an embodied channel or an open channel, which means it's not like there's a mat and then I put myself aside and then, a different channeled frequency of wisdom comes through. The frequencies and the information that I'm channeling is coming through a state of embodiment. And I remember when I first started doing this work and I was talking to my guides and I was talking about channeling, and they said, well, if you want to channel the way a lot of people channel or some people channel, you're going to have to go through a process of learning to set yourself aside and bring the energy through. And I said, what's the alternative? And they said, well, you're going to have to integrate everything that you're channeling and downloading from the universe as you teach it to be just a living embodiment. And I said, but then I wouldn't have to kind of go back and forth and, turn on the lights and turn off the lights and that whole thing. And for some reason that really resonated with me. And it was a more involved process because I had to go through a complete rewiring of my nervous system and to be able to embody frequencies that when I speak through the sound of my voice, healing energy comes through the words. And most of the time, I'm not even really choosing my words, whether I'm speaking insightfully, whether I'm making a joke. I don't often choose my words. I'm just a space where a stream of energy moves through. And I didn't know really a lot about what I did until I started doing it. And so I learned about channeling by doing it. And then I would, my guides would introduce me to other guides, and here's an ascended master. This is an archangel. And I kind of just went with it. And because it always had this energy of love, and it always had the frequency of love that I could trust, I always went with it. And the messages were very safe, and the messages were always loving and of expansive wisdom. And in the back of my mind, the whole time I was like, I'm either, doing something or I'm insane. And I thought, one of those two might be true. But what I was doing was touching so many people. It was opening hearts. It was helping people make sense of the confusion of their healing journey. And I seemed to be bringing through wisdom that was different from what some people were saying. And so I just thought, well, here it is. I used to be a personal trainer, went through a back injury. Now I'm this guy and I'm doing this, and we'll see where this leads. But the energy that moves through me when I do this is so profound. It is so surrendered. It is so loving. It is so expansive. It is so present. It is so all of those qualities that it was undeniable for me. And I just began to trust it. And the more I did it, the more I was invited to do it in different ways and on different stages. And, it's kind of like if you play baseball and you step up to the bat and you don't know how to do it, but when the ball is thrown towards you, you swing and everything works. So I really didn't know how I was doing what I was doing. I just knew how to do it and how to put myself in the position to do it. And after years and years of watching myself do this, I became aware of, I'm channeling, and this is what I'm doing. And I'm bringing through frequencies, and people's mirror neurons are entraining to the frequency, and it's clearing out their cellular body and activating chakras and taking people through levels of awakening and all these types of things. But it was really mysterious that I learned all this by watching myself do it. And that's, for me, that's always been the uniqueness of my journey. I don't come from a background of reading a lot of books, having a lot of teachers in physical form, although I think everyone's a teacher for all of us, right? We're all teachers, but all my teachers were non-physical beings, and they were always incredibly loving. And when I started working with them, I remember telling myself, this is what I thought school was supposed to be. And this is what I've always wanted to learn. And this is what I've always wanted to do. And so what an incredible blessing to be here with you. And what a blessing to be able to be in a position where what's coming through me, that source inspires me to share, that we have opportunities like this to share it with the world. And so it's an incredible honor and humble blessing to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So I believe for me, once I started recognizing that there was more to reality than what we can perceive with our five senses, and I asked myself the question, do I believe that there's more to life? And of course, the answer is yes. And now we know through quantum physics and quantum science that this has been proven. The majority of the energy that is available in the field is not something that we can pick up with the standard five senses. And we know through, studying remote viewing and many other things through many years that this is a real thing. So I think we can firstly be aware that this thing exists. The second stage for me was to attune to the messages that I was receiving myself from other people, because there's a lot of spiritual people out there that have great power, but they're not always working with the highest light. And so when I tuned into your messages, it was always grounded in love. It was always so pure. It was always so humble. And you've always been such a authentic channel in that regard. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that and say thank you for the teachings, because as I said, many a time I've tuned in. Even last night as I was preparing for this interview, I was watching one of your recent videos, man, and I have to say, it was called How to Take Your Power Back. Yeah. And I was sitting there going, This needs to be taught in schools. So ladies and gentlemen, this is
Right.
not just a let's talk to someone that's clearly is connected to divine higher powers, channels, guides, whatever. But let's also have that conversation today as to some very powerful fundamental teachings that can change lives. I want to start with a question. Of course, my friend, it's an honor. I want to start with a question. Before we go deeper into this aspect, in a broader sense, what do you think is happening in the world right now, collectively?
Well, collectively, I think that we're going through a global awakening. And I think that, whether you call it the ascension or, we're just noticing the repeating of evolutionary shifts that happen so many years on this planet in a repeating sequence. It's the earth itself and the people of the earth. Here's how I like to word it. I like to say the earth has already shifted into a fifth dimension. But then what happens is the earth, the environment reaches the fifth dimension or the new vibration first. And then all the inhabitants on the planet are willed in the direction of the new awakening consciousness. And that's, to me, why the expansion of consciousness seems like it's spreading so quickly. Like, it wasn't just we arrived at this date and it's like, all right, time to speed up. It's because the earth says yes to it's time. It spins on an axis. And what I feel is it spins on an axis and slowly, very slowly, is going upward in vibration. And so we've reached a point where the earth has spun up into the fifth dimension. And now the people of the planet have to align with this consciousness to the best of their ability. And I believe at certain times when the earth reaches a new dimensional alignment, certain percentages of the planet have to be in that alignment, and certain percentages of the planet have to be at certain percentages of that fifth dimension. And there's people like light workers or healers or people that think of themselves and feel like I'm part of the new leadership of this world. We are those type of evolutionary beings who are helping the entire species touch into this fifth dimension by embodying a higher percentage of it. Now, while that sounds super cool, and I'm embodying a higher percentage of 5D, with that comes the necessity that I will have to act from a fifth dimensional standpoint more often than not throughout my life. And if I don't, I tend to suffer and things will spiral in a chaotic way because life is really trying to guide us all to where we're meant to be. So if we look at everything in the world, and we could talk about, from the collapses of deception and the greed and all the stuff, we talk about all of it. It's either going to be the collapsing of an illusion through revelation, but then there's a large percentage of us that are anchoring and embodying such a percentage of this 5D light so that the people of this planet, as they wake up out of hypnosis, as they wake up out of conditioning, as they wake up out of enslavement, what's available to them is a new energy to plug into, which is the energy of unity consciousness that we call the fifth dimension. And of course, the journey we take to get to the fifth dimension is the fourth dimension through time. So over a period of time, spiritual beings are moving from third dimensional separation, competition, comparison, all these types of things to unity consciousness of oneness, cooperation, working together, inclusivity. And what takes us from one to the other is the fourth dimension of time. So we are here as souls in a physical body in a real world adventure using these bodies to evolve into a 5D consciousness. But a lot of people will say, we're stepping into the fifth dimension to help save the planet. The truth is Mother Earth aligned in 5D first. We're just in a biological evolutionary necessity to move in the direction of where the planet already is. And the things over time that don't align with it will dissolve and perish, and the things that do will expand and transform. And we're all at different stages of this. We're all in different lanes of this, but that's essentially what's happening. It's the awakening that we each go through as people, right? That we could call spiritual puberty is happening on a global level.
Whew. For those who aren't too aware, for those who aren't too aware with the different dimensions, that the Buddha referred to them as different planes of existence, different states of consciousness.
Right.
Certainly experiencing, how time is a linear concept, or considered to be a linear concept in the fourth dimension. If we're then having a temporary three-dimensional physical experience, I say we're in this world, but not just of this world.
Of course.
And if that's our experience and we're embodied into temporary time, what are some of the things that we can do to assist the ascension process? And also, how do we know when we will be oscillating, say primarily within the fourth, and also, hopefully soon at some point in the fifth dimension? How do we assist, and how do we know?
Well, these are great questions. And I think the easiest way to understand dimensions, because sometimes we can get caught up in words and phrases and jargon. But if we think of dimensions like grade levels, like Earth has been in the third grade, and we're using the fourth grade to get to the fifth grade, basically. So in the third grade, or in the third dimension, it's about self-image. It's about reputation. It's about, what do people think of me? It's about using any kind of external status to build up a sense of self or ego, which is totally fine, because you have to be a caterpillar in order to, go through the experience of becoming a butterfly. And so third dimension is where we all start, usually when we incarnate into the earth. And when we go into the fourth dimension is either when we start questioning reality, we start asking questions of, hey, are these companies to be trusted? And we start to kind of ask deeper questions like, is what I'm being told the truth? So it can get very counterculture-y in the fourth dimension, because you're starting to wake up. You're starting to ask deeper spiritual questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And you're going to start feeling a deeper pull of, there's got to be more to life than just external collections of things. You start to realize that things that begin will only end, and that stops kind of satisfying you in the way it used to. And you kind of start to feel like you're waking up out of a dream. And yet in the fourth dimension, part of the, equal pitfall is you can take your ego and reinvent it into a spiritual ego. So the way I like to describe it is, a regular ego has regular human reasons to avoid important decisions, put things off, commit, and not follow through. Spiritual ego is when we do the same thing, but we now have spiritual reasons for all this, right? So instead of it just, I'm not feeling it anymore, it's, my energy's telling me I shouldn't do that, whatever it's going to be. So it's the same ego, but with just more of a spiritual kind of a costume. And the fifth dimension, because again, it's all preparing us for the fifth dimension, fifth grade. The fifth dimension is when we start to embody the wisdom that we are seeking and gathering in the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is when we embody the healing resolve from all the healing work we're doing out of the third and through the fourth. So it's really when we become more embodied versions of ourselves. And from my perspective in working with the universe, and it's so interesting because there are people that will take a very scientific approach to this. There are people that will be way in the esoteric land. There are people at all these different levels that are approaching it from all different angles, which is incredible because we're also unique and individual. But from my perspective, the only thing that matters is the state of our conduct, the depth of our embodiment, what type of choices are we making, what is motivating us to make those choices. If there are choices we're avoiding, what is the thing that's helping us avoid those things? What pain are we in the midst of processing? And really questions like that. At a certain point, waking up is a mystical version of growing up. And the very beginning, there can be waking up without growing up. But as you start to move towards the fifth dimension, they have to accompany each other. So I think one of the reasons the universe gave me all these teachings about love and loving ourselves and really disarming a lot of the mysteries of the journey is because really the time that we take to learn how to love ourselves and to heal our past through the power of love is practicing the way that we're going to act and behave in the world around us. Right? So if you're someone who is meditating 5 hours a day or whatever people do sometimes, there's a tendency that a deep meditator who meditates too much is going to be aloof and avoidant in the outside world, because the way you are with yourself is the way you are with others. So if we learn to love ourselves, there's a greater likelihood that you're going to be loving with other people. And when you're loving with other people, you're passing along an energy that assists in their healing. It inspires them to come out of hiding. And we pass along the energy of love to really wake up this planet. So I would say, even though I know I'm saying a lot of things, 'cause I'm just trying to like overview the question, in every stage of evolution, from the third grade through the fourth to the fifth, they change. But the one thing that is always apparent is the importance of love. And love only becomes more important the more you evolve. And at a certain part of your journey, and I can just speak from my perspective, it becomes the only importance. The only importance in my life is love. And love becomes such an importance that it stops becoming a choice. Because a choice is something that you make among a slew of other choices. But I don't have any other choice but to love. Why would I want another choice other than to love? Why would I want a less than the highest opportunity for myself and for someone else? So you get in this trajectory of choosing love so often that there literally becomes no other importance and nothing else to do but love yourself and love your world through this expansion of consciousness.
How else are we going to bring or create heaven on earth if it's not with pure love? You talk a lot
Right?
about this.
And, you know, for any of us who have ever, I'm sorry, please.
No, go ahead. I'd love to.
Well, I was going to say, there are so many stories, even if you go on YouTube and you just watch like near death experiences and people who go through these moments of, I left my body and I went to heaven, right? What's the thing they always talk about? They talk about how bright the light is. They talk about how intense the love is, and that there is so much love that it actually disarms us. And I had an experience when I was 8 of leaving my body and going to heaven. And the love was so immense. It literally is an experience I had when I was 8 years old that has never left my body. It never leaves you. And so I didn't interrupt you. But it's just this, I think the most exciting thing in the world right now, as insane as everything looks, is that this is the most perfect moment in time for more human beings to make love the highest priority.
Amen. Now, we know that this is a fundamental part. We cannot get around this. And I believe that a lot of times people are not able to express or maybe even receive that love because in many ways, particularly in my field is personal and somewhat spiritual development, what I realized is that a lot of people have issues with loving themselves, self-love and self-compassion. Can you tell us a little bit about why this is so important? If we are here to live a magnificent life, to even make the world a better place, why do so many people find it difficult to, truly love themselves and the way they show up in the world?
I think it's because when we are human beings who have been wounded by our past, we've been disappointed by people, we've loved beautiful people, then they've left and gone to the afterlife, or people have said, I love you. And the people that say, I love you are also people that may not act in the most loving way, or someone says, I love you minutes after abusing you. There's so many different forms of trauma. And often what happens is the imprint of trauma that we hold in our body holds the energy of the person that has traumatized us or hurt us in our field. And a lot of people will say, I don't know why I can't love myself. I want to love myself, but I can't. It's because when you haven't healed those wounds, and again, these are the wounds that love will heal, we are holding the energy, the vibration of someone who has hurt us in our body. And people who are run by that energy can't actually move beyond the consciousness of their traumatizer or their abuser or the person that is associated with their deepest pain. And so when we talk about forgiveness, forgiveness is such an association with love that forgiveness is not saying something was okay. It's not saying that, I'm okay that it happened. Forgiveness is saying there's someone else's energy in my body who has harmed me, either knowingly or unknowingly. And by forgiving them, I offer them the healing to be able to move on with their journey, to raise their energy to be of a more, to be in higher conduct, or to help them heal if it was even unintentional. But I offer forgiveness as a way of wiping out someone's energy that's in my body that prevents me from loving myself the way I want to love myself and the way I can. So oftentimes when I've worked with people that have gone through incredible traumas, and I've worked with people, and I've been blessed to work with people that have gone through some of the most incredible traumas I've ever known about on this planet, ritualistic abuse and things that are hard to even fathom. And these are people who want to heal, who want to love themselves. And yet there's some sort of imaginary barrier that prevents them from being able to feel worthy enough to receive the love, to trust the love, to and all these different levels of it. And once we go through the forgiveness work, which is not it's okay that it happened, it's I'm ready to allow the energy of what I'm holding in my body to be cleared away and return to the light, return to source. As we do this work, we're actually creating space to reacquaint ourselves with what true love is. We are remembering that even though we have earthly guardians called mom and dad, we take the time to remember they were only the earthly guardians to house us and help us until we could govern ourselves under the power of our own choices. And that in this remembrance, mom is really the divine mother. Dad is really the heavenly father. And we start speaking our own gospel, which is not religious. It is when we start to wake up, because when we are as the small self, like if I talk to you as a small self, I would say, my name was Matt. I was raised in Southern California. My dad was a functional alcoholic. My mom was, whether she was mad or happy, she was screaming all the time. My mom just screamed. That's all she did, screamed, even though she was a wonderful woman. That's the small self, if I told you the truth about my life. If I told the total truth of my life from the bigger self, from what awakens in us through self-love and through forgiveness, I would say I was sent to this planet by my divine mother and heavenly father, and I was given earthly guardians that kept me relatively safe until I was ready to lead my life the way it's been led. And so forgiveness is, and it's not saying, oh, it's okay that you did this to me. It's, I'm going to allow this moment of tragedy, this moment of trauma, I'm going to consciously choose to use it as an opportunity to heal myself because what I heal in myself, I'm healing in all beings. And if I heal in all beings what I'm healing in myself, I help break the cycle of violence and separation so that no one else in this world needs to be hurt in order to awaken. And I'm helping to break the cycle for the planet. I'm helping to break the cycle for lineages of ancestry that this earthly pretend family is working out. And I allow myself to heal so that through the portal of my deepest pain, I help make this world a safer place for all beings. And that's the power of forgiveness that actually creates the space for us to trust love as a communion with the divine and not to project onto divinity the things we endured in our earlier years.
This reminds me a little bit of the piece that I mentioned earlier, the video that you do. I found this on YouTube and it just blew me away. And it's, as I mentioned, it's called How to Take Your Power Back or something of that nature. And you were saying how when someone's done wrong by you, hurt you in any way, shape or form, how you were speaking about honoring the power that they had to do that into the field, into your reality unconsciously, not to say that it's okay or that it's accepted, but that you honor that power and that you choose to then honor your own power and be in your own sovereignty and then move on. Can you just quickly give us your 2 cents worth on that? Because I think that in itself was a game changer.
Yeah. I believe if I remember that video, because it's hard for me to remember anything I channel, I believe I talked about I respect your power.
Yes.
I believe I talked about it from that, like I respect your power. And that teaching, because all teachings kind of just come to me spontaneously, that teaching came to me one day. It just kind of dropped in. I was walking around the world, walking down a neighborhood. And I believe what happened is I saw two people in an argument. And I remember seeing from afar, these two people are arguing not because of what they're talking about, but because neither one of them is acknowledging the other one's power. And I remember standing from afar thinking to myself, I acknowledge the power of these two beings to bring to them whatever they're trying to take from one another through the argument. And it was a very powerful moment for me. And then I remember I was in a moment where someone was being a little, passive aggressive with me or being a little sarcastic with me. And I remembered this and I turned to them and I said, I respect your power. And they turned to me and they said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, it seems to me the way you're conducting yourself with me is that you're in need of being seen. And I want to know that I see you and I see the power that's within you. And I want to acknowledge it so you don't have to try to take that from me or compete with me in this way. And then they stopped. And there was this moment of recognition. And I then reflected in my life because I'm someone, even though I've gone through all these awakenings, if I talk about how I was when I was a kid, I spent most of my childhood and a little bit of my young adult life walking around thinking every corner I turned, someone's going to jump out and beat me up. I literally thought that for the majority of my entire childhood. And I spent my life wanting to be accepted by people, but afraid of people. And so for me to come full circle and to realize when I was so afraid of being hurt by people, I was unaware of their power or how to respect it. When I came into this awareness of people who are aggressive or abusive don't know how to respect their power because other people haven't recognized it. And I could literally do the work in this world to help turn things around, not just for myself, but for other people. But to be a kid who was afraid of being beat up my entire life, every corner I turned, literally waiting for someone to jump out and beat me up. And to be someone who could look someone in the eyes not when they're in their spiritual state, not when we're in a safe place, but when they are a lion trying to protect their part of the jungle. And I could say, this is a moment for me to compliment this person. I respect your power. Not, I'm going to withhold that nice compliment until you use it properly, not reward and punishment. That the people who act the most egregiously are begging for attention, waiting for approval, and are asking for the gift of recognition under the worst case scenario. And when we don't need this to be fair, because for me, unfairness is withholding healing from any person.
Mm.
And so I just dispense the healing that's necessary. That's to me what's unfair. What's unfair is saying this person isn't acting appropriately enough for healing. And that feeds the belief that we have to be good enough for healing. Healing is for all. And if, just like if I was at a shelter and if someone was making a lot of noise, they're probably hungry. Am I going to withhold food from a starving person? No, I'm going to feed them. But see, that's what love will show you. Love will make you fearless. Love will make you unafraid of other people, because when we're afraid of other people, we are equally disrespecting their power just as they are in our presence. So it was, for me, it was a fundamental realization.
I highly recommend going and check that out, guys. And also, I want to mention, seriously, no, sincerely, I also want to bring up your book, Matt. It's called Healed by Love.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys go to check that out. It's mattkahn.org, which is mattkahn.org/love. And you can actually get an access or a copy of that book. Definitely recommend tuning into that. Listening to Matt, as I said, primarily on YouTube is where I have seen so much. And I just love taking the moment to tune in to what you're tuning into, because it does indeed bring that embodiment of that love. I want to segue to different bunch of questions, so if I may, because at the moment it seems, I say the darker the brighter the light. Okay, and I'm looking at this world now, going, okay, there are things happening. Some say that it's biblical. Some say that it's obviously the Great Awakening, call it whatever we want to call it. It seems like there is two forces at play: the light and the dark. It may be, if seen for some, that the dark is trying to slow down the awakening. It seems that there are things put in place for us to be stuck or conditioned to be in fear. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, without any judgment, just that level of awareness. But what are your thoughts on that? As in, there is the two sides, the dark and the light. They're at war. And how do we maneuver this thing? What can we expect moving forward, Matt? What are your thoughts?
Well, the purpose of the dark, and again, this is not to in any way endorse the behavior of the dark in any way. The dark does not know it is a part of the light. And it acts the way it acts because it's trying to be unlike the light, because for a variety of whether it's someone was abused in a religious institution or what, all these different things. There are people that believe, I want to have what I want to have when I want to have it, and I don't want to wait, and I don't want to play by rules and all these different chaotic, type things. And then people of the dark get together and they have a dark agenda. And what they don't understand, and they would laugh if they heard me say this, and it makes perfect sense. They think they are the highest spiritual elite beings on the planet. And they look at most human beings like animals that need to be corralled and herded and put in pens, and people don't know how to think for themselves. It's one of the most classic things. If you watch a movie, a villain most of the time thinks they're the hero. It's like the easiest way to stay in delusion. And so, but what's interesting about the dark is the dark comes together, but the dark can't get along with one another that long, because that would be unity consciousness. So the dark starts to unravel from within, the infighting. Oh, this secret family and this secret family, and these people are breaking off. It's pure chaos. The plan that they think they have can't ever actually materialize successfully, because that would require cooperation, and cooperation is a tenet of the light. So basically, as everything falls apart, right? We're living in the world. It looks like a lot of dark agendas are coming to fruition. All that's going to do is set the stage for the light to demonstrate higher miracles. We've created a chessboard so that the light can demonstrate miracles, and in a way where people go, did you see that? Yeah, we all saw that. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, if you ever talk to them who are ever super in the dark, like dark people, like people who are practicing dark ritualistic stuff, those people then have some sort of come to Jesus moment. And so it's interesting how the dark will indulge a certain amount of human interest and intrigue and appetite. And then, like a raft, take you right into the light, and you'll shine brighter than you would have if you didn't go there. And so I say all this knowing for a fact that every single soul that incarnates in a human body goes through multiple lifetimes, even if they don't remember. They're all simultaneous, and how you remember and put it together is just the will of your soul. But everyone's got to go through the dark to get to the light. So there are many of us that have gone through this and don't remember it. But a truly compassionate heart goes, in order to have been so faithful to the light, I must have had some resemblance of this type of a journey. And so when I look at dark beings, whether you want to say government, in the entertainment industry, wherever you want to put the players, I look at that and I go, play out all the power you think you need. Wear it all out, because the way this is going to end is that darkness is trying to slow down the awakening of consciousness, even though it doesn't even believe there's an awakening of consciousness. I think that's made up fairy tale stuff. And it's doing all this weird dark stuff in secret with, and everyone's dressed like a real estate agent or whatever they're doing. And inevitably they're going to play this out. Because here's something I'll say that a lot of people don't know. There's something called the law of causality, the law of causation, which has to do with action steps. And because dark and light are a spectrum of growth, anytime you act out something dark and insidious in the world, you are enacting your energy to start moving towards the light of redemption, to go through realization, to go through all these different healing, forgiveness, and all these types of things. So the stuck place for darkness is that dark can be dark, but they can't take action, because they don't realize as soon as you take action, whatever darkness you're enacting starts to transform and move into light. And so the beings who are acting out these dark patterns are moving themselves towards the light, and they don't even know it. Inevitably, what's going to happen is that all of these plans that people try to enact is going to lead to a level of exhaustion, because it's harder and harder to control the world that's waking up into unity consciousness. And the dark will get so exhausted, will have literally no more energy for anything, and it will just collapse at the feet of love. And the whole purpose of darkness is that darkness is to bring people back to their light. Children are chased out of nightmares to wake up in reality. And if we as a planet wake up to such a degree, we learn to shine our light to where we say we don't need dark experiences to remember how brightly we shine. So we are creating for future generations a planet where you are born in the light and you just experience different levels of the light. We don't need to dip into the dark in order to see the light. We don't need to get wasted with our friends and go party to wake up the next day and choose sobriety. And so this is a very big invitation for the world. This is a very big radical expansion that's happening on the planet. And where we are in the story right now is you are watching greed, deception, lying. You're watching every playbook empty out every strategy it has and try to enact it at full capacity. It will be enacted to a very small degree, only to create the chessboard that makes everyone go, holy crap, what's happening? And then the light starts to shine and wake up in more and more hearts. And that's the work we're doing. We're here preparing the world. We're helping to entrain people into a level of connection. And at the same time, if we can learn to shine our light first without needing dark to bring out the light, we can move this world through this shift at a much faster rate. So it's all good news. We're just at the incredibly intense, wow, this looks strangely biblical time in history, but inevitably it's only Armageddon for the part of the ego that refuses to surrender.
Again, a quick reminder of the documentary Healed by Love. And we're going to put this in the show notes, guys. You can check that out. And it's mattkahn.org/love if you want to learn more. I had a vision, Matt, and so a while ago now, I was in meditation, and I saw God, source, light, and it's his, hers, the most divine beauty. And it was just an experience of profound grace. Because I, like you, have had some experiences in my life where it's been, very painful, and the death of the ego, rebirth and revelation kind of thing. And it devoted my path to the service of the light. And what I saw was that the light had created fractals of itself and come down the dimensions into all the experience until it forgot itself, or parts of itself forgot itself. And now what I saw, and I'd love your opinion on this, or your whatever on this, and what I saw was that the light now is calling to itself its own pieces through us. It's beginning, the parts that had forgotten are beginning to remember again. It's purifying again. It's coming home again. And it was so divine. And it was, the message that I got was, for me as a very hardworking person, was you don't need to do anything. It is already done. You may choose to partake, but this is me calling myself home through all of you. What are your thoughts on such a vision?
Well, I love that vision. I think it's incredibly beautiful. And I think there's, the beauty of this work is much like music. You have musicians that get together and they're all playing similar notes, but in such different arrangements, and each one's a different song. And that's what's so unique about all of our revelations is that, you're having one about, fractals and the mosaic of the universe and realizing itself. And that's absolutely true. And just as I've realized that every cell of my body is a different person in this world. And I treat each person I interact with like a cell in my body. And I speak to the cells in my body as I would want the world to be treated. And so any way you go about it, we are all remembering this unity, and we are remembering that there is a higher force, not above us, not in a cloud judging us and doing all those funny things, but that we exist to give a divine reality a chance to know itself in a different way. And the universe is always expanding. Every part of the universe is expanding. And so we as human beings are playing out a journey of never-ending expansion because we are literally animating the expansion of the universe in physical form. One of the ways I've talked about it, or that I realized that I want to share with you, I want to share, one beautiful story with another, because I think what you shared was so incredible. I had this realization. I think it was a dream I had or a vision. Can't really remember. And it was this sense that, obviously we're here in these bodies, we're in this world. It's like a dream. And you come here so often that the objective is, when your soul is mature enough, to wake up as early as possible in your lifetime. And that the idea, and of course you can't force this, but the idea is that you grow and evolve as you awaken. And the first level of transcendence is you grow and evolve in yourself to the degree that you begin to positively influence people around you who grow and evolve as a mirror of the growth occurring in you. But then the objective of mastery, which is a word that has captivated my interest since I was a child. When I heard mastery, heard words like Messiah, heard about Jesus. I was raised Jewish, didn't do anything for me. Heard about Jesus, that lit me on fire. And the objective of mastery, objective is a loose word, is, can you wake up in this world first so incredibly that large amounts of people around you begin to reflect the light that you're shining? But then, can you wake up so profoundly that when you leave this world and go back to heaven, heaven has been upgraded and transformed and expanded because of the work you did in the dream? So I woke up so deeply in this dream, when I went home to heaven, even heaven was different. That's the excitement of this. The excitement of, we are in real world scenarios. We are in scenarios where we're all living in countries where the people who supposedly run these countries, by and large, are in it for themselves, because we're coming together as communities. We're waking up our consciousness, and we are not going to battle with the dark. We are reminding reality that dark only exists to give the light a greater stage to perform miracles. And we are here to remind ourselves on all levels what power is. And fundamentally, power is a willingness to love.
One last question for you, Matt. May I, please?
Yes, sir. Of course.
I'd like you to imagine that right now you're on the world stage. Every sentient being alive
Yes.
is listening and watching and tuning into your message. Whenever you're ready, tune in, connect, take a breath, whatever you need to do. And do share with us, please, Matt. What is your message to the world right now?
Take a moment, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever culture you embody, whatever religion you practice. Take a moment and remember that through the breath you breathe, you are always being loved. You have been loved into existence, and you are being guided through this life by the love that is always loving you. That in order for all of us to love ourselves, we would have to pass along the message of the Creator, because we know we are being loved by that Creator. So the first step is really remember that you are loved. Remember you have always been loved. And when you remember that you are loved, you can then begin to remember that you are love. And when you remember that you are love, love is not a choice. Right? Most people think love is just a choice to make, and let's make it when there are phones around, and I hope this is going to go on Instagram and make me look good. Love is not a choice. Love is not a tool of negotiation. Love is what we are. And as we remember that we have been loved into existence, that we are being loved through existence, and that the only thing we're returning to is the love that is always present. When we remember that we are always being loved, we remember that we are love. And then from there, being love is not an accomplishment. It's not really a big deal. No one needs to see what we're doing. It's just our nature. Our nature is to be love. No different than when I was a kid and I found that it was easier to be nice to people than it was to get them to like me. And it felt better in my body. And so for me, love and kindness are the most direct paths to salvation, because rather than get complicated and twisted up with what the divine knows, it's far easier to remember what the divine is. And the divine is the love in all of our hearts. And our job is to recognize in every breath, the divine fills your heart with love. And your job in the next breath is to give it away. And then in the next breath, it's refilled again. And to spend your life giving away and passing out the love that is always loving you. And a quote I once said, I don't remember, it was maybe 5 years ago. If everyone in the world stopped and for 1 second gave everyone the benefit of the doubt, just for 1 second, heaven on earth would dawn. So if we remember that we are always being loved, if we know that even the darkest characters are fighting for power because they're afraid of love's intimacy, right? Seeking power so not to be overpowered. Through the power of love and kindness, we soften our hearts, we open ourselves, and we allow the greatest miracle the world will ever know to begin taking place, which is the ability to love no matter how dire of a world it appears to be. This is not the most inconvenient time to love. This is the perfect moment to start loving.
And with that, I love you. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's an honor, sir.
And beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Kahn, look up Healed by Love. It's at mattkahn.org/love. And of course, socials as well, both Instagram, YouTube, you got your Facebook. Look it up, follow Matt and his teachings. And again, I will continue to do just the same. Thank you for your service to the world. Thank you for talking and sharing your message of love, and for allowing us to receive that today. We're going to, I'm personally going to continue to share your work and elevate your prayer, because I know that what you're doing is absolutely in alignment with what is and what is coming. So thank you for being you. And from me to you, I love you very much.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Until next time, Matt. Matt Kahn, everybody.